It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Timothy Davis, PhD. He is an associate professor in the physical education department at State University of New York, Cortland, SUNY Cortland. He is the graduate coordinator for adaptive physical education. He earned his bachelor's and master's from Chico, California State Chico. And he got his PhD from Virginia, University of Virginia. He's been teaching in the field of adaptive PE for over 25 years. Dr. Davis is the national chair of the Adaptive Physical Education National Standards Program, APENS, and oversees the national standards and certification process in adaptive physical education, sponsored by the National Consortium on Physical Education Recreation for Individuals with Disabilities. Dr. Davis has created school partnerships in APE and has partnered with SUNY Upstate Medical to develop the Fit Families and Families on the Go programs that addresses the needs of children with spina bifida and cerebral palsy and families. So, Dr. Davis, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Leo. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you very much. And I want to make sure that we go into this with the idea that this is about sharing today. This is whether you're a freshman, undergrad, or just getting started like Jonah over here, or whether you've been out in the field and you've been a veteran teacher for a few years like Rick, right? like some of those. So it's really fun, quite honestly, for me to come and meet that whole range, because I fall in there somewhere. A lot of times I feel like I'm more like Jonah, where I just feel like I just graduated and I'm just getting started. And then other times I feel like I'm way done, like I should be done. But somewhere in the middle is this piece that I think we all feel and that we all connect with, and that's passion. And that's passion towards working with kids, you know. All the things that Leo was so kind to share about my career path. I remember most of those things that I do and all of that. But at the end of the day, we embrace these things and we do these things because we want to improve the quality of services for kids with disabilities in PE. I mean, that's basically, I fell in love with physical education. I started my career as I wanted to be a coach, a baseball coach. I wanted to be a football coach. I didn't really think about adapted PE until my dad, who was the state director of special ed for the state of Nevada, said, "Hey, you want a job, you should look at adapted PE." And so I did do that. I got a chance to look into that and pick up some coursework, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, I literally just fell in love with it. So that has been my passion throughout my life. And so today, I hope that we'll share that, and I don't want to make this formal. I want to make it very informal, so that those students who are just getting started connect with those who've been in the field for a few years, begin networking. That's a key word. You got to network, right? You got to network to get jobs. You got to meet these folks and share your ideas. I've got a lot of new things, toys, things that maybe you haven't seen, but you also have a lot of years of experience, and you know your kids and your state better than anybody. This is my first time to Maine, which is very cool. I'm very excited to be here. I was telling Leo, I almost took a teaching job. Well, I didn't almost take it. I applied up here. And then my wife found out on the map where it was located. And she's like, "Don't even think about it," because we were in California. And she's like, "Don't even think about it." And I was excited because I'd love to go. I always wanted to go to Maine. Fast forward 20 plus years, I finally get here. Just a funny side story. I drove up. It was absolutely beautiful. Okay. And something that you don't see every day when you're here, you're driving down the road, moose registration. So I had to pull in and see what that was all about. And there was like a 1,000-pound moose hanging in the tree right there. I was like, that's amazing. I don't see that every day in New York. I got to tell you that. So somebody was fortunate enough to get a good moose yesterday. So anyway, it was just kind of a surprise. You don't see that every day. So that's kind of what makes it fun. So today, like I said, we'll be focused on sharing. I'll do my best to connect with you and answer your questions. Don't leave without questions that you have asked, okay? Because if I don't have the answer, somebody here more than likely will, okay? So we want to make sure that you get all your questions answered, or you get the resources you need to share with school administrators, to share with your colleagues, to share with your classmates, to use in a research paper, to do whatever you need for you where you're at right now in you know, time and space. So it's important that I do that. That makes me feel as if I contributed to your day and helped you out. So a little bit about today's session. It is an action seminar. That was something my father spun a lot of years ago. He always said that when you go do a workshop or you go do a session, you know, you don't want your audience to sit in podium or sit in a theater style room, right? Guess where we are? We're in a theater style room. So we're going to try to get out of here within an hour, get you over to the gym, get you more into the action-based activities, and not just activities, but the action of sharing, right? That's really what he was all about. It was the action of sharing. And I was blessed to have, like I said, a dad who's a director of special ed, got involved at a very young age. I really didn't know the difference between a kid with a disability and a kid without. I would just kind of put in there with everybody. He said, go play. Okay, I'll go play. So I grew up with that model, and I continue that model. So we'll do that in the gym for part of the morning session. I think we'll break for lunch at some point in time. And hopefully you'll still be willing to come back and learn a few more things. I've got a ton of resources. So even if we don't cover the resources in the PowerPoints or anything else, I'm going to share those with Leo. Hopefully he'll be able to give those to you. If you don't have those or aren't able to connect with him, you can always get me at the APINS website or at SUNY Cortland, my email, and I'd be happy to respond and go from there. So that's it in a nutshell. A couple of people, groups I need to thank. One, of course, is Flag House. That's an equipment company I've been with a long time. And they're a company that gets it. They're a company that understands parent needs, teacher needs. Another group is S&S Sports. S&S Sports is connected to PE Central, and I apologize for not having the S&S Sports logo up there. But the S&S Sports is another group that actually sent the equipment here that Leo was referencing earlier, and we'll use and play with and come up with some strategies and ideas and hopefully give some of that away to you. Fit and Fun Playscapes, another group that just really gets it. They understand parents and parent needs. They ask, you know, they want to know what teacher needs are, and so there's a lot of cool equipment from Fit and Fun Playscapes, whether it's classroom-based activities, what's going on in the classroom, the hallway, down the hallway like sensory pathways, out on the playground. I'm assuming you guys go out on the playground as much as you can. Little side piece, I was up in Fairbanks, Alaska a few years ago doing a talk in January. I don't know why I went, but I went. Anyway, it was fun to go. But they go outside for recess up to 40 below. At 40 below, they say that's too much. It's too cold. I'm not kidding. I was in shock. So up to 40. So if you know, New York, if it's 36 degrees, kids stay in. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So our generation of kids are getting softer and softer. So I like what you guys do up here. Kick them outside and get them out there and play in the mud and all the other fun stuff. So Fit and Fun does a really great job at just engaging kids in terms of movement opportunities, and we'll show you some sensory pathway stuff that I brought. They have some cool vinyl rollouts and other things. And then, like I said, last but not least, our good friends, Mark Banos at PE Central, and I think I can click on that and see if it will take me there. Well, it took me here. All right, where's Kevin? I knew this was going to happen, Kev. We were going to get started and then I would mess it up. make good friends with your tech guy, right? All right, so what do they do? I just clicked on the link right there, right? Oh. Yeah, there we go. Now, don't go far, because we have to go back the other way here in a second. So PE Central does a fabulous job. Does everybody know PE Central? They have a frequently asked questions piece there, so you can write in your questions about physical education, kids with disabilities, etc. Write in, check it out. But like I said, about all those companies that I just mentioned, and there's a few others out there, Go for Blackout, Studio, Sport Time, all those other groups. They all sell quality stuff, but you should also know they all sell junk. So you have to kind of pick and choose what, 30 years of doing work in schools, what equipment you need to have versus what equipment breaks in a few minutes, stuff like that. So I tried to bring equipment that I think is durable, portable, because I'm an itinerant adapted PE teacher. I travel, right? Throw it in the bag, got to carry it. Put it in the back of your car, got to have it. And if you put it in the back of your car, it can't melt, right? If I worked in Arizona, it can't melt, so, or Nevada. So there's all these things that go with it. If it's too cold, it's brittle, it breaks. So there's all these things, right, about equipment that we do. Portability, functionality, multiple use is huge. I got to be able to work with kindergartners and high schoolers, because that's what I do. And I want to make sure that if I get it for the elementary school, I can use it at the middle school and I can get it back to the elementary school without a problem, right? So I try to find equipment that does just that, that helps you meet that range of ability that you have in your schools, that range of kids from low functioning kids to super high functioning kids and everybody in between. We are seeing more and more children obviously being included in general physical education, which is great. That's where they should be. However, we shouldn't dump kids into PE just because of scheduling, and we shouldn't just dump kids into a physical education class without first looking at and addressing their individual needs first in regards to least restricted environment. We'll get into that a little bit later, but so those are just some quick side thoughts. But PE Central, great stuff if you get a chance to go there and check it out. So what are we going to do now? Back to the PowerPoint. We'll get started. All right. Where is it on here? All right. High-tech stuff here. We'll try to get it. So this is me. This is where I'm from. This is what I'm passionate about. I have two sons who do a lot of hunting and fishing. Now they're all grown up. They're professionals out in the field doing crazy things. But that's Central New York. If you're ever down in Central New York, come by, see us at SUNY Cortland. We love it there. I'm an avid fisherman. I am an avid hunter as well. And I do get out as much as I possibly can to get involved with kids and with you. So I hope next year I get to come back, maybe. We'll try to get back up here and spend some time with you out in your schools. But that's me in a nutshell. SUNY Cortland, State University of New York at Cortland is where I've been for the last, this is going into my 20th year coming up. And we have a fabulous program we're really excited about Cortland's physical education and kind of things that we do. So from an undergraduate perspective, we have close to 900 physical education, teacher education majors. That's crazy. It's really, really a lot. And they do a tremendous amount of service learning. We're very much into outdoor pursuits. We're very much into the university's new Student Life Center and the things that they do. I couldn't run all the programs that I run without my undergraduate students and without the opportunity to collaborate. The notion of interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary work is super important. So I really value our exercise science folks who want to be PTs and our other folks who might want to do speech or our elementary ed classroom teachers. We have to start that model now, right? When they're undergrads, when you guys are just starting in physical education, really focus on that collaboration, because when you get out, it's too easy to get in our little box, even in our silos, if you will, in our buildings at the elementary level or the middle school or the high school level, and we forget to go collaborate with special ed. We forget to go talk to our speech folks. We forget to see them, and because we're all so busy, we're coaching, we're doing, all those things. But physical education is notorious for not going to the IEP meetings when we should. Physical education is notorious for having lunch in their locker room and not going to the other side of the school building to meet the other teachers. We're notorious for that. We're notorious for, not sticking around because we have coaching responsibilities and other things, and being involved with certain things in the school that relate to paperwork or special education. We have a couple special education folks here today. They get that whole notion of the amount of paperwork that goes into the IEP process, assessment process, and all those things. And I'm here to say to our young folks, hey, you will never be off the hook from now on, because you have to attend the IEP meeting. You have to be involved with special education. You have to be involved with functional behavior assessment group, RTI, response to intervention, PBIS.org. You got to do all those types of things, positive behavior instructional supports within the schools, all the trends and issues that are hitting schools today, the fact that 1 in 5 kids have social emotional learning issues, 1 in 5, that's crazy. I'm afraid to switch this over, but my wife literally just sent me this morning a huge spike, an article, a huge spike on from the CDC Center for Disease and Control on the increase of children identified with developmental delays. Right? That impacts all of us. That impacts everything that we do. There's a recent study that literally just was published at our International Society meeting on adaptive physical activity that looked at longitudinal data over the last 30 years using the TGMD. Everybody know the TGMD, the test of gross motor development? If you don't, it's a really fabulous assessment. TGMD 3 now is out. And they looked at longitudinal data on preschool age children starting back in 1990, then to 2000, 2010, and now to date. The data back in the 90s said that 77% of preschool age, kindergarten age kids were competent in motor skills. Yeah, all right, we can live with that, right? Fast forward 10 years, that number dropped down to 62%. Fast forward 10 years, you know where this is headed, 55%. Now, this year, ran the data, this is a national data collection, 46% of preschool, kindergarten age kids coming in to kindergarten did not meet 50% of the motor competency they needed to be good movers. We're talking run, jump, skip, hop, throw, kick, strike. This isn't rocket science. This is go play. This is like get out there and play. Get off the screens, get off the tablets, whatever it is, and go play. Give kids opportunity to move. My wife's elementary school, she's going to shoot me for saying this. My wife's elementary school, kids sit kindergarten, K through 2, until 2 o'clock. And then they have recess, and guess what? Then they have physical education. And the sections, they have 3 sections of kindergarten at the same time. You ready for that? 3 sections of kindergarten. That's poor scheduling. That's not thinking about the research and all the evidence that says movement drives learning. That without movement, we don't learn, right? So movement is essential. Play is essential to kids learning and moving, or kids learning and understanding and developing not only their whole self-regulatory system, their ability to self-regulate, their nervous systems, and all of those types of things. We'll get into that a little bit later. But just simply to learn the cognitive part of it. So the tremendous amount of literature out there to support what you do. Physical education is just a piece of that larger picture in terms of physical activity, getting kids moving throughout the day, right? So I'm going to hopefully give you strategies that'll show you ways in which you can get your kids involved in moving. But you've got to value it. You've got to value it at a young level, this level, and begin collaborating all the way through, okay? Our adaptive PE program is really big. We do a lot of things. We have about 100 children a week come to SUNY Cortland, either through parents or through the local BOCES program, and are involved. The picture in the upper right there is our Fit Families program. That's our connection with Golisano Children's Hospital in the Spina Bifida Clinic. Really, really a lot of fun. So we're very blessed to have all of these resources available to us. And one particular resource that I have that I'm so excited about sharing is our Sensory Integration Motor Sensory Lab. And we now reference it as a multi-sensory environment. So the SIMS Lab is a space that I have at SUNY Cortland where we work with children with sensory processing disorder, autism, kids on the spectrum, kids identified with developmental delay who have great difficulty with impulsivity, with self-regulation, with anxiety as it relates to movement. You know any kids like that? Oh yeah, a whole bunch, right? A whole bunch. And so it's really exciting for me to have little ones come into the sensory lab and get a chance to crash their body. What? Falling down practice? Yeah, we fall down. We're going to have practice doing that, and we're going to have fun doing that in a safe and meaningful way. So many little ones, if you just bump them, right, a little nudge, and they just melt into the ground. They cry, oh my, they just melt. Because their vestibular system is not fully developed. Not only is it not fully developed, it hasn't been stimulated to be developed. So there's a lot of big issues with that, and like I said, a little bit later today, we'll talk about sensory integration and how that works. Quick look at the lab, types of things that we do. Looks a lot like a physical therapy lab, doesn't it? A lot like that. But it's designed to do 3 key sensory issues: vestibular, tactile, proprioception, which is at the core of everything you do in physical education. Tactile, proprioception, and vestibular. Everything that we do comes and is centered around those types of things. So we have a host of different equipment. I brought a lot of these types of things. The Sunflower, that's a vinyl rollout. That's an awesome, it's just a tart that rolls out, and there's lots of different kinds. Instant activity. So a classroom teacher who doesn't know a lot about movement, instant activity. Recess. Great stations in the gym. Great stations in the hallway. Great stations at recess. There's so many fun things that you can do, that we can access to increase the amount of movement kids should get throughout their day. So it's part of physical education, but we're going to extend that into the routine of the day. I'll show you ways in which we do that. Part of our SIMS lab is to talk about sensory integration and multi-sensory types of things. Anybody have kids like Quinn? Might have a trach or have some significant medical needs in your schools? Yeah. Quinn's hilarious. I got to tell this little side story. She's a riot. 4 days ago, my wife works with her, and we're working in the hallway. She gets mad, she pulls her trach out. Just like, out it goes, right? She's like, right? Now Quinn knows that she's got a nurse there who's going, you're laughing because you know exactly. Yeah, it's scary. But Quinn knows that she can get out of doing the work if she pulls her trach out. She's a pistol. Let me tell you what, she is a pistol. So the other day she had her drink on her tray, and we were going to physical education, and she didn't want to go with the nurse to the bathroom before she came to physical education. So she picked up her drink and she poured it all over her teacher assistant who was standing there. Just like that. That's the kind of, I love that personality. I love that, she's like, she's so sweet. This is the type of kid, though, that we need to get engaged and involved as much as possible. She has every right to be in general physical education with modification, with adaptation, with appropriate planning. We can ensure that she can be in general PE, but she also needs self-contained environments like a multi-sensory environment. She also benefits from being in spaces that have low lights like this, that aren't beaming down lights on her all day long. She needs opportunity to move throughout her day, not wait until 2 o'clock for recess. It's ridiculous, beyond ridiculous, right? So we as physical educators have to be advocates for kids like Quinn and like like I said, she is a pistol. I have no doubt by the end of today, my wife will be sending me a text of another story of Quinn doing something in the school. This is our multi-sensory environment. A lot of tubes, a lot of sensory types of things. Very unique space. It's also referenced as snoozling. Has anyone ever heard of that terminology before? Snoozling. It's a European type of thing. It's out of Flag House. The company Flag House sells this type of equipment. And we're fortunate enough to have a space to give our future physical education teachers and our classroom teachers a chance to work with kids in this kind of environment. Very rare, very kind of unique. However, a lot of medical, a lot of center-based programs will have spaces, either indoor sensory room or indoor multi-sensory environment to engage kids. The way I look at it is just another part of the continuum of where you as a physical educator can provide quality physical activity for kids with and without disabilities to play together, right? It's just another part, it's just another space, another continuum of placement options that we have for our kiddos that we work with. And like I said, Quinn has every right to be in general physical education. However, there are times when the curriculum doesn't match up, doesn't align, and so she's not in general PE during those curricular times, during those units where it doesn't line up, right? But when they do line up, she can go and participate with my wife, who's the adaptive PE teacher. And in Quinn's placement, she pushes in to general physical education when she can, and when she can't, she receives adaptive PE services on the side. So that's a model, one particular model that is out there that's being used in a variety of places. Not to bore you with some of the research things, but these are some of the things that we're doing as part of the research agenda that we have in terms of professional development is probably our biggest area where we look at evidence-based practices. So that's a big part of what we do, and obviously, like I said before, interdisciplinary collaboration. Our national organization, my national organization, is not only Shape America, those of you who know Shape, but also the NCPEID. I'm not sure if many of you know about NCPED or the National Center on Physical Education, National Consortium for Physical Education and Individuals with Disabilities. This organization is the advocacy group in Washington, D.C. that is trying to ensure that the federal law, IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, maintains the definition of special education as it is, because it includes the terms physical education, or the term physical education. So that's why physical education is a direct service under that particular federal law, and every child with a disability has a right to physical education. Okay? It doesn't say adapted, but it does say specially designed physical education. Some other resources that go with that. Leo was kind enough to mention that I am the chair of the National Standards in Adaptive PE. Do we have any capes in here? There's only, yeah, I thought so, Rick. What's your last name, Rick?
Slowakowski.
Ah, okay.
They call me Mr. S.
Got it. I would too. So there's four capes in Maine. I want to see more nationally certified adaptive PE teachers in this state. I know there's many of you who teach adaptive PE. Getting and earning the national certification isn't that difficult to do. You can work with me. I'd be happy to help you with that. But you need to know that the standards have been around since 1997. It was part of my dissertation when I was at University of Virginia with Dr. Luke Kelly. And we subsequently have edited the standards for the last two rounds, the last 15 years. Those standards, there are 15 standards for teachers, not for kids. These are teacher-driven standards. 15 standards for what an adaptive PE teacher should be able to do. Okay? There are 757 or 58 knowledge statements that define what adaptive PE teachers do on a day-to-day basis. And then ultimately there's a national certification exam that we use to measure your knowledge about adaptive PE. So that's kind of it, the process in a nutshell. Back up from that though, why is it even out there? Because of states like New York, states like Maine, states like Nevada. They just go on and on. But the reality is anyone in this state with a physical education degree and one 3-credit course that Leo teaches in adapted can teach adapted PE, can teach kids with disabilities, right? That's the band-aid. One class, right? How many classes did you get in adapted PE when you did your work? One. Do you feel trained and ready to go? Absolutely not, okay? Same thing in New York. They get one class in adapted PE. Now we have a concentration, we have other things that we try to get kids to do, but at the end of the day, you only need the one class, right? So having the national certification is really important. There's only 11 states in the country that mandate or have information about adaptive PE at the state level. California, Minnesota, Illinois, a few states like that are well versed in this particular area. Maryland has some nice work going on. So those are great examples for Maine to look at and say, hey, we can do this. We can push for this. Whether the state adopts it isn't the important thing. What's the important thing is that we get our school district administrators, our special ed folks to understand that it's not just physical education. Physical education is an essential part of who I am. I would not be here today if I was not a PE teacher first. I love what I do, right? That was the foundation. That training and knowledge and understanding of good pedagogical work is the core of what I do. But I also have very unique knowledge about adaptive PE. Did my master's degree in adaptive PE in California, and I was lucky enough, very fortunate enough to work with people like Luke Kelly at University of Virginia, and a variety of other people, Marty Snell, some other people in early childhood special education, severe and profound, at the University of Virginia. So that another set of unique knowledge that brought me, to this field, and keeps me engaged and involved in this field. So the standards are developed on what a general PE teacher should know, and then we test you on what an adaptive PE teacher should know. 100-item multiple choice test. Our goal, get a CAPE in every school district. Our mission, simple. Let's have teachers in school districts who are knowledgeable enough to make good quality decisions about kids with disabilities in PE. Not that hard. But if we don't know about Quinn, we don't know her particular unique characteristic, we don't know her developmental characteristics as it relates to learning, then we can't teach her. We're not going to be effective teachers in physical education. We won't be able to make correct decisions about placement, where the least restricted environment is. We won't be able to select appropriate evidence-based interventions that we know will work with her and her unique learning style, because we don't know what those are. So if we close ourselves off to knowledge, then we don't know the learner. We don't know our kids. If we don't know our kids, we can't make good decisions. So your task, if you do one thing for me when you leave today, get to know one kid at your school. Find out what their unique characteristic is, what their disability is. Find out what the interventions are that are evidence-based that help that child learn, and then implement that in your class. Yeah, I've got 45 other kids. I get it. I got 5 or 6 kids with IEPs in my class. Each one, though, of the 45 requires you to differentiate. That's good teaching. We differentiate because you learn differently than you and you and you and you, right? We coach that way, right? We coach in a way that allows us to differentiate between athletes. No difference with kids. Same thing. So we should be able to differentiate between learning styles. And then make those learning styles apparent in our class. Because if we don't use those interventions, then Quinn can't access the general education curriculum. If she can't access the general education curriculum in PE, then she's in the wrong placement. Whose fault is that? Is it Quinn's fault? No, it's our fault for not doing the things that we need to do. Why? Because we closed ourselves off to knowledge. We can't do that. The resources are out there, just a plethora of resources available to you. Unbelievable amount of resources, right? That you can access to learn, do a little bit of professional development, to understand, and then implement. Like I said, it's run, jump, skip, hop, throw, kick, strike, right? We just have to figure out the best way kids like Quinn or Thomas or other kids that I've showed you today learn, all right? I'm going to take a quick stop here, and I'm going to ask you to get involved. One of my true mentors, dearest friends, out of Massachusetts, he's a Patriot fan like I am. He's a Red Sox fan like I am. My better half, though, likes the Yankees and the Bills, but that's okay. We'll work through those things. John Passerini is National Adapted PE Teacher of the Year award winner. John is also Walt Disney Teacher Hand of the Year award winner. If you know anything about the Walt Disney Awards, they're amazing. He is the one and only adapted PE teacher or PE teacher who's ever won that award. He does an activity that I love, and it's called I Stand For. So I'm going to ask you to do that for me today. It's a very, very simple task. All you have to do is, right now, I want you to think about a child with a disability that either you work with, you know, maybe they're your own child, maybe they're a sister, brother, etc., it doesn't matter, but a person or somebody with a disability who you care very much about. I'm going to ask you to stand for that, stand up, say your name, and then tell me who that person is. Tell the audience who that person is. Okay? I stand for. That's what it is. Very simple. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. Today, I'm Tim from upstate New York, and I stand for Quinn. Quinn has multiple disabilities. And then I stay standing, and I turn it over to somebody else. So I'm going to ask Rick to go first. I knew he would. Thank you, Rick.
I stand for
So,
Rowan.
real quick, tell everybody your name
Okay, my name is Rick.
and where are you from.
I teach in Holden in Eddington, Maine.
Got it. And who do you stand for?
Just outside Brewer. And I stand for this little guy. He's not little so much now, but his name is Rowan.
Rowan.
He had a tumor in his brain. It was removed, and that affected his motor response and everything. And his pediatrician in the IEP said he will forever be in a 4-pronged walker, could not be alone by himself, needed to have a one-on-one with him at all times. And I went against a doctor with her PhD and everything else, saying, no, I don't think that's a fair way to treat this child. If we give him a guided, safe environment, this child has much more potential. And that kid now loves to run. He's out on the
Beautiful.
playground. He's now in 7th grade. I've been working with him for since kindergarten.
Okay. All right.
He
Well,
just-
thank you, Rick. So we're standing. Rick standing for Rowan, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Stay standing.
Okay.
Stay standing. Somebody else. Go ahead. Yes.
My name is Jack Kaplan. I teach at Carabec High School. I'm a strength coach. I stand for Dominic Falk, who is a senior in my school and is autistic. And it's one of the most demanding, strenuous teams, clubs, activities that any kid is ever going to be involved in. And that kid didn't make it the first time through, and now sits in front of 30 kids at 5:30 in the morning and leads the program.
Beautiful. Dominic. All right. Very good. Thank you. Somebody else.
I'm Steven, teaching Jackman, and I stand for a little fella named Carter, who also has autism, but he's a great fella.
All right. Carter. Thank you.
I'm Thomas. I teach at Woodland School. I'm going to choose two people because they're related. Thomas and Christiana. There's a family that I think there's 4 of them. They all have autistic. They're all autistic, and I got both of them for one class. And it's just kind of crazy. There's a family that's just there's a bunch of them that have autistic. So,
Difficult. So you're standing for Thomas and
Christiana.
Christiana. Thank you. Somebody else.
Nick, I teach in Durham Community School, just above Freeport. I'll stand for Thomas. He's an incoming kindergartner who I've actually had in class 3 times. I'm excited to see what he is. He's multi disabilities, G-tube, lots of other things
Did you
too.
know he was coming?
Briefly, a couple days beforehand, and we were told, don't expect anything. I reported to his teacher the other day, 100% activity, blends in perfectly with his peers.
Awesome. Great, Thomas. Somebody else?
I'll stand after that one because I have a kindergartner that came in. His name is Adam. He has a lot of social emotional issues. He came into my class. I had to actually test him in pre-K because they were worried that he was going to have to go in an adapted program and not be with his peers. And he's actually leading his peers in his classes now.
And you are
I'm Randy.
Randy, standing for Al. Thank you. Somebody else?
All right, I'm Scott Pelletier. I represent MSC 33, which is in Frenchville, St. Agatha. I have the privilege of teaching the K through 6 school at Dr. Levesque School and then 7 through 12 at Wisdom. And I stand up for Austin Garrett, who had tumor in his brain and had it removed. And he has multiple disabilities too, but I stand up for him. So.
For Austin. Great, thank you.
Matt, R267 Lincoln. I stand up for Elliot, who's an autistic kid I have, and I've had him since kindergarten, I guess, and now he's in his second year at 3rd grade. But he's just a wicked cool kid.
Great, thank you.
My name is Ralph. I teach at Maple Kings as part of the Presque Isle School District. I'm standing up for Matthew. Matthew has a lot of social and emotional issues. I've had him since pre-K. He's in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, we start our golf unit with real clubs, real balls outside. I was really worried about it. Well, he told me the other day he's going to build a golf course at his house. So he's doing really well.
Great, thank you. Somebody else?
My name is Serena Fitzpatrick. I am a non-traditional student, K-12 physical education and a PTA degree as well. I actually am standing for my niece, Lily. She was born with spina bifida, a form of spina bifida called lipomyelomeniingocele. She was born with missing 3 of her vertebrae in her lumbar spine. And they said that she would never walk. And she walked into her first her year appointment. She had her first surgery when she was 12 weeks old. She is a gymnast and a cheerleader, and she is 9, and she is my hero. I stand for Lily.
Wow, I want to meet her. Very cool, thank you. Somebody else?
I'm Dave. I also teach in Lincoln. I stand for Cameron. She's now an 8th grader. I've had her since 4th grade. She came in barely walking with a walker. And now she's nonverbal, she has a lot of disabilities. Now the joke is when she comes into the gym, I take her walker and I put it in the trash can. She still needs assistance, but barely holding on to the back of her shirt. So big gains, she's a tough kid. So.
Very good, thank you.
Matt Owaska. I stand for Desiree. Desiree's MR girl. I've taught for 3 years now. I have her sister on the soccer team, and they're a year apart, and it's kind of fun to have both 2 sisters in different work realms. So, Desiree.
Desiree, thank you. I'll get everybody to stand up before it's all over.
I'm Alan Gordon. I'm a physical education teacher here at Upham, and I stand for 2 young men, Chad and Bradley. So early on in my career here, I worked with Bradley directly in an adapted physical education seminar that Steve Butterfield came up and did for us when I was first starting. And Chad actually came to me as a freshman. His class graduated, his mother and family wanted him to continue on and have that college experience. So he actually took a class, my wellness class with me, and as just a non-traditional student. And the neat thing with them is that I now have connections with them with both Special Olympics. They both have come many years, Bradley not so much now, but both have come many years to our Special Olympics program that we do on campus with our soccer teams and PE students, as well as I see them from the community come and work out at our fitness center. So it's good to see that connection and still see them develop and be a part of the community over the years.
Excellent. Brad and Chad. Very good. And Stephen Butterfield, great guy. Love him dearly. All right, somebody else.
Peter, I teach here in Presque Isle. I have a young lady who's in 8th grade now, started with us in 6th grade, named Riley, nonverbal, socially, emotionally disability. It would be she would come to gym class for maybe 5 minutes and then couldn't stay. Now she's able to stay the whole class and participate in the activities. And that comes first thing in the morning for attendance now. So it's good to see her improving that way.
Very good, thank you. Somebody else?
My name is Paul Kaplan, and I'm a student here at Presque Isle, and I stand for Devin. He was a classmate of mine, and his major disability was Asperger's, which led him to not realize his social cues, and that led to a lot of exclusion from him from classroom activities, and I want to foster a classroom where that does not happen.
Excellent, thank you.
My name is Anne. I'm from Eastport. I work at Eastport Elementary School and Shed High School. I stand for Fulton. He's a little gentleman that I've known as a classroom teacher since K4. I've watched him grow from barely going to a PE class to just this last week I pitched the ball for kickball and he caught it for me. So, you know, he's doing a lot of the work that I'm not doing now. So,
Great.
but he's my little inspiration every day.
Very good. Fulton?
Fulton.
Cool name. Cool. Somebody else?
I stand for Levi. He is a 7th grader and he loves basketball. And when I first got him, he could stand maybe 5 minutes playing. Now he goes to practice and he actually can score a layup now. So
Excellent. And you are?
I'm Liz and I'm from Ashland.
Great, thanks you. Levi, very good. Somebody else?
My name's Sarah. I teach at Mountain View School in Sullivan, and I stand for a boy named Thomas. He's kindergarten, and he got into a bad car accident, was in a coma for a couple months. Doctors said he probably shouldn't be alive, but here he is in my AP class.
Wonderful. Thomas, very good. Thank you for sharing.
My name is Savannah. I'm a freshman here at UMPI, and I'm standing for Lucas, a kid who I graduated with and who suffers with Down syndrome every day, but he always has a smile on his face and loves life.
Sounds like he's doing good. Very good. Thank you.
My name is Erin. I'm also a student here at UMPI, and I'm standing for Mercy. She has Down syndrome as well, and we had a pep rally for our state champions, and we presented her with a t-shirt and we pulled her down to the floor to cheer with us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Jonah. I go to school at UMPI. I stand for a classmate of mine named Mark, who used to play basketball with us at recess and gym all up through school, and he'd always put a smile on everybody's face. Conversations we'd have, funny guy.
Great. Mark, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a student here at UMPI. I'm student teaching right now in Washburn in grade 3, and I stand for Keely, who has learning disabilities and is social emotionally learning. She's been in foster care for 15 months, so it's really been hard on her, but she always has a smile on her face. So I stand for Keely.
Keely. Oh, very cool name. Thank you.
Hi, my name is PJ. I teach at Caribou. I'm standing for Rosie, who's in kindergarten. She has Down syndrome. She's just starting her educational journey, and it's going to be an interesting ride.
Should be a lot of fun.
It will be.
Okay, Rosie, very good. Thank you. Somebody else.
Ed, I teach at Bucksport High School. I'm speaking for Camden, who's on the spectrum. Went from a kid that really didn't even like touch people or talk to people, up to now he's a sophomore in high school, he's earned his black belt. Maybe I'll start to see what's up.
Thank you for standing and for sharing. And Springfield's a great place.
Oh, yeah. Loved it. Going to school there, not so much living there.
Okay. Somebody else?
I'm Margaret. I'm a student here at UMPI. I stand for Justin. He's a former classmate of mine, actually a manager for my high school basketball team. He has Down syndrome, and his enthusiasm for the game and ability to just pick us up is one of the reasons why I wanted to become a special ed teacher.
Okay, Justin. Very good. Thank you. A few more to go.
Leah Hazelern. I teach PK to 6 physical education in Marks Hill, just south of here. I can think of, as people are standing up and naming names, I can think of, numerous kids over the years. This is my 19th year of teaching. So I'm standing up for all of them.
Sweet, very good, thank you. Somebody else want to go?
I'm standing up for Danny, a relative, with severe emotional problems. You just never know when he's going to explode. A lot of family members are just at their wits' end with what to do. And when he comes around, he and I just do activities, and he's a totally different kid. So I taught him how to ski. That wasn't fun, but we got through it.
So Leo, thank you. And somebody else want to go?
Aaron.
I'm Sammy, a student here at Umpy. I'm standing for my brothers. They're twins, Matt and Drew. They have CP, and they were told that they would never walk or talk, but I've watched them grow through physical therapy. Now you would have no idea that they have CP. They
Wow,
both
that's
play
great.
soccer, play golf, one plays football. They have no clue.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
My name is Kingsley, and I stand for Sawyer. He is my little cousin with autism, and when we first started school, he was the late of the year, and he refused to go to the classrooms with any of his peers, and now he's been integrated with the rest of his classmates, and it's great.
Fabulous. Sawyer, very good.
My name's Emily, and I'm standing for my little cousin Cameron that has ear issues and all that, and had to be switched to different schools, and is now back to his original school because issues, and so I'm really proud of him.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm Diane, I'm a special education teacher, and I, like this lady, have had a lot of years of experience, but I guess I'm standing for all of the individuals that I work for that don't have a voice, tend to be oppositional, and keep me on my toes.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Kevin, how about you? You got a voice behind the camera? You want to stand for somebody today?
Just here for IT.
Got it. I understand completely. Didn't want to leave you out. Don't include everybody. It's powerful for me to hear a bit of your stories, and I hope it's just as powerful for you to recognize, number one, that you stood for passion, you stood for love, you stood for somebody that you're really connected with, that you go home thinking about, that you get up in the morning and you're driving to work with your coffee or your Coke, whatever it is, and you're going, I wonder if he's going to be here today. Because if he is, it's going to change my whole day, right? You got to plan for him. You got to think about him. It also demonstrates that through your words and what you say, just how connected we all are, and that disability reaches everybody. It does ultimately reach us all, whether it's personally, whether it's through friends, whether it's somebody through school. And they're like anybody else. And just like you said, they need a voice, right? And they need a voice in physical education, and they need a knowledgeable voice. You are all highly effective teachers because you're here. You're all highly effective people and teachers because you stand for somebody, right? Just like they would stand for you if they could. So I love this little activity to stay connected on these things. Throughout the day, I'm going to ask you to think possibly about one or two little ones that you currently work with. Keep that person in your mind as we look at the games, the activities. Ask questions through them. Would they be able to play? Would they be able to do that? I want to know more about that strength training program. I think that's awesome. We don't see enough of those types of things in schools. And there's so many other stories that I've heard bits and pieces of that I want to ask questions to you about. And I hope you do the same for me. So thank you for doing that quick little activity. I appreciate it. Give yourself a hand. Everybody else a hand. We're going to keep plugging ahead. How much time do I got? Leo, am I okay?
How about 25 minutes?
Perfect. We're just kind of pounding away here. All those things that that you do are supported by national organizations like these, like Special Olympics, some of you mentioned, Shape America, the I Can Do It program. Gosh, the I Can Do It program is such an easy peer mentor program. If anyone's interested in getting involved with the I Can Do It, it is not in Maine. This is the one state that the federal program, I Can Do It, You Can Do It, or now it's just referenced as I Can Do It, needs to be here. Right? It's like an extension of Best Buddies. It's a program where it's just peer mentorship. Right? It's just getting kids together on a meaningful topic. So they promote 60 minutes of physical activity a day. And if they do 60 minutes of physical activity with their peer helper, not in PE, but at playground or anywhere else, you can calculate how much time they get. But if they do it for 6 weeks, they get a Presidential Physical Fitness Award. They get a PALA Award, which is really awesome. Really easy, inexpensive type of thing to do, but it connects kids, right, under a banner. That's part of the I Can Do It, You Can Do It program. Of course, there's NCPD, the National Center on Physical Activity and Disability. All of these organizations, and there's so many more, and I know you have lots here in the state of Maine. Get connected. Connect with those parents and those parent organizations specific to disabilities, such as Spina Bifida, or United Cerebral Palsy, or Autism Speaks. I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of resource out there for you. But really, we're here about this. We're here about to talk about what adaptive PE is. And in your own words, you've already said what adaptive PE is. Adaptive PE is making that strong connection. Yeah, there's a federal definition. There's a state definition for physical education. There's a state and federal guidelines to help us do our job. But at the end of the day, nobody comes in to do our job for us. We have to do it. We have to be the ones to know the kids, to make the better decisions, to make the good decisions. And if we don't know our kids, we've already said it, we can't make good decisions. So if we're talking about a young man with Down syndrome who has intellectual delay, or we're talking about a young person with cerebral palsy, or a person who has acquired a traumatic brain injury or a traumatic injury from a variety of things, all of those stories just rolled out here a few minutes ago. Those are your kids. These are our kids. So we work together to provide the best possible physical education program we can, and that program has to be comprehensive. If you're familiar with the Shape America has the Comprehensive School Physical Activity Specialist model, the CSPA model. I'm not going to get into it today, but it's fabulous because it embraces the community, it embraces the school as a community, it embraces physical activity and movement at the core of what they do, and it's about making those connections meaningful so that people with disabilities have multiple portals, multiple ways to engage physical activity, not just one way through Special Olympics or one way through your adapted class. Okay? By the way, adapted PE is not a class. Adapted PE is a service, and the service can be provided in a variety of placements, a variety of situations. And we get confused with that kind of language, so if you're struggling with that in your district, give me a quick side shout out, we'll talk about it. You can get information at apins.org. APINS is Adaptive PE National Standards. You can get information at our National Consortium website, and you can also get information at rightslaw.com. If you've never heard of rightslaw.com, fabulous website. We're going to jump there really quick. And if we look at the mandates that Wright's Law provides, I'm going to bypass that one and go here. There's 3 things you must have. And again, Leo, I'll give you this PowerPoint. Hopefully you can share it with the group in some capacity. But these are 3 resources that you absolutely must have. The first one is a frequently asked questions document through shapeamerica.org. And I'm going to see if I can actually get there. And I probably screwed up the whole thing, Kevin. Maybe not. Where is the Shape America document? Bear with me here, gang. Sorry about that. There it is. Well, that's Shape America. That's one of the documents. So Shape America has a document called the Frequently Asked Questions document. Maybe it's this one. Here it is. Yeah, I got it. And what this does, this document was written by a host of like 15 or 20 of us around the state, around the country, and it asks these questions. What is adapted PE? What is physical education? Who's qualified to provide that service? What are the differences between APE and specially designed physical education? A lot of times they're the same thing. How do kids qualify for adapted PE? A lot of school districts don't know this. Right? We recently did a study in, with a doctoral student from Texas Women's University that looked at textbooks in special education. All the intro-level special education textbooks. We wanted to know how much of those textbooks said anything about physical education. Right? 68% said nothing about physical education. The vast majority of the textbooks that we read. Nothing on physical education. So therefore, the students going through those classes aren't getting anything on physical education. The students going through those courses and ultimately becoming classroom teachers and then ultimately CSE coordinators or directors or school administrators aren't getting information about physical education or the correct information. And no slight to our special education person here. I'm really glad you're here. Your first name again, I'm sorry?
Ann?
Ann, thank you, Ann. You're here, right? There's so many who aren't, who don't know enough about physical education. So it's our job as advocates of our kids to give them that information. It's an easy thing, right? It's an easy thing to share that information. This is one way to do it. Download this document, really, really simple. And then if you don't know how a child qualifies for adapted PE services, you can just click right on it. It'll take you to it. And it'll not only provide you the definition, but it'll also give you the federal mandate. What is the federal mandate on how kids qualify for adapted PE services? What assessment tools do I use to qualify a child? Most of our kids come to PE already having a unique characteristic like Down syndrome or some other physical anomaly that we can look at and say, yes, they qualify for special education or services. Doesn't mean they need adapted PE services. It just means that they're a child with a disability who has the right to a free, appropriate public education that includes special education, and within the definition of special ed is physical education. Direct service under the federal as well as state mandates, by the way. All the state mandates, the same thing. So when we look at how a child qualifies, they have to qualify using a standardized assessment, 1.5 to 2 standard deviations below the mean on a standardized assessment. I can't look at you and say you need adapted PE and you don't. It doesn't fly like that. You have to have data. You have to present that data to the IEP team. There's a few steps in between, like referral and parent permission. But you must have that data. And no better person than the physical education teacher than to collect that data. Who knows more about fundamental motor skills, specialized movement skills than you? Nobody. You're it in the school. You are the expert in regards to physical education. Not the PT, not the OT. They're great people, but they're related services. They do other things. Right? The school psych, great stuff. Speech, wonderful. Love speech. But at the end of the day, who's the expert in physical education? You are. If you're not at the IEP meeting, you can't advocate for that child to get the right placement. You can't advocate to say, yes, they need to be in general physical education because they don't have any, they're not showing any signs of delay, or they need that social engagement. Don't put my kid in a separate adapted PE class without first having data to say why he needs to be there. The federal law mandates you must have data. And you must present that data to the team, and the team has to make that team decision. So there's several decisions that need to be made at the IEP level, and this document helps us do that. Are they eligible? If they are, then where are they going to get that service? Placement. Right? Is it going to be an adapted, separate APE type of situation? also known as your APE class, or is it going to be in general physical education, or somewhere in between? APE is a service. It's a continuum of services. I can push in, I cannot push in. I can choose to have that, I can consult with the general PE teacher, and the child's in general PE. There's a lot of ways to deliver this service that gives school administrators way more flexibility than just calling it a fifth period class. Okay? It also gives your kids the greatest opportunity to be where they're supposed to be, which is in general education, as much as possible as mandated by least restricted environment. 2 decisions, 1 more decision. 3rd decision, how much service? Rick has to go into the IEP meeting and say, this child needs 60 minutes, additional to what he already receives in physical education, not in replace of. So many states get it wrong. So many situations say it's either physical education or adaptive. No, it's physical education and adaptive PE. So if I need additional services to help me improve my motor performance, I need that additional time from a specialist called Rick, who's a certified adaptive PE teacher, who's highly qualified under the law, who can then provide that service to me and help me improve so that I can ultimately come back to general education. Right? Adaptive PE isn't a one-way door. Special ed is not a one-way door. Kids got to have the opportunity to come back the other way, right? So if we do our job and we're improving, we're helping kids get better, that means they're going to go back into general education. That's where they belong. It's where they need to be with their peers. So that model is there. This document will help you walk through those questions. It's a great, great document. And I know I'm firing a lot at you, but it's a really, really great piece of work. Like I said, these are all the questions that are listed under the law and the frequently asked guideline. You know, we can get into intramurals, we can get into a whole bunch of before and after school stuff, we can get into pre-K, we can get into all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, including the 504 plan, these are all mandates that support physical education for kids with disabilities. So, must have that document. We must have the, let me jump over here to this one. We must have the, there it is. Eligibility criteria, and that is just 1.5 to 2 standard deviations below the mean. That's a really, really great document. And then the last one that's listed there as a PDF is also known as the IEP checklist. And the IEP checklist is awesome. It basically, and I'm not going to ask how many attend the IEP meeting, but if you haven't gone, right? John, are you nervous about the first IEP meeting that you have to go to?
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little. Not yet. Who's right in that moment of student teaching or first year teachers? You've been around for some of you've been around. But if you've never been to an IEP meeting and you got to go, and you're the PE guy or the PE person, I should say, excuse me, it's a little nerve-wracking. Remember your first IEP meeting? Yeah. You a little nervous? Very, absolutely. This isn't what we do. Right? We don't do a lot of that. So this is out of our comfort zone. I get that. But you need to be in it because you have to make decisions about PE. Okay? So the IEP checklist is a really awesome thing because you go through and say, oh, did I bring my placement information? Did I bring my present level performance statement? Did I collect data, both normative, standardized data, and have I also taken notes, my qualitative data, so that you can share with the school administrator, that kid's there at 5:30 in the morning ready to go. Or you can share that that student leads the group in stretches and other types of things. There's no measure that shows us that. There's no assessment that tells us that. You have to be that child advocate to tell that committee, this is what this child is able to do. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've written it down. Anecdotally, this is the information. These are the notes that I've taken throughout the year that says this child with Down syndrome can do this. So we need to continue this, whatever this is, okay? So that aspect of that checklist affords us a chance to do that. And the other thing it does when we share it at the IEP meeting It lets all those the classroom teacher, the special ed person, everybody else in that room, you put them on notice that, hey, physical education is just not down the hall and out the door. We just don't have a whistle and roll a ball. It's not gym. It's physical education. And it's a curricular area. And it's mandated under the law. And we are professionals. And this is what we do. And you're damn right I'm passionate about it. Because it's my job. And I do my job well, and I take great pride in that. So don't call me a gym teacher and push me down the hallway and say you're not included in this meeting. I need to know everything there is to know about that student so that I can provide the best teaching possible. That's what it is. And you took that on when you stood up today. You took that on when you stood and said, I stand for a child. Well, you know there's more than one, right? There's a lot of them. And we don't always stand for all of them. I get that too. I get that too. It's hard to like them all. There's some that are tough, real tough. But that doesn't mean our responsibility lessens anymore over one or the other. Right. Some days we're not so great. Can't be great every day. But they can inspire us to try to be great every day. And that's what our job is. So these resources are absolutely fabulous. I'm inspired because I've got great people in my life to help me do some of the things that I get to do as I run around the country. See if I get this right. Yeah, I did it. All right. This picture's a little dated. That's my wife. She's an adaptive PE teacher. Awesome. She does all kinds of great things. Love what we do. And it's about this. When we talk about what is the essence of adaptive PE, what is it that we do on a day-to-day basis? Well, it's a little bit of these things. So bear with me here for a second. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. Right? But yeah, a lot of times it's hard. A lot of times it's difficult. We need to make sure kids have frequent opportunity to move. We need to make sure kids are familiar with the movement patterns. Because if they're not, there's a lot of anxiety that goes with it. 1 in 5 kids right now have anxiety. You walk into the gym and guess what? You walk into your class and you say, hey, today we're running the mile. They get pretty pumped up about that, right? Still to this day. Right? Oh, it doesn't matter who we are. If we move kids off that comfort zone, off that dime, it's hard. Right? It's difficult. So we need to understand our learners and figure out interventions and strategies so that we can help them learn. We need to have the faith that all kids can learn. There's no such thing as a bad kid. There's no such thing as a kid who cannot learn. And when I hear that, it just makes my skin crawl. I get calls from teachers all over the country, and the first things they often will say, these are PE teachers or whoever, they'll say, he can't run, he can't talk, he can't walk, he can't whatever. And I'm like, oh, I just want to slam the phone down. But I can't. That's the only time I can say I can't. And I try to re-educate them to tell me what they can do. Because just by saying he can't run doesn't tell you what he can do, does it? He might be able to run with a walker. He might be able to run with all kinds of other supports. But to just simply say he can't run is not descriptive enough. It doesn't give us anything. So eliminate the word can't from your vocabulary right here and now. You've already done it with your athlete. Eliminate it. And focus on ability. Focus on this part. Focus on the ability of all your kids. Help them achieve and be the kids that they can be because they have awesome advocates right here in this room. You're going to go back and be that much more advocate, that much great of an advocate for your kids because you have more resources after today. We have to have a level of arousal though. We have to have that bit, right? We have to have that connection with our kids. So some of the equipment we're going to use today is sensory based. Some of the equipment we're going to use today will get their attention, right? Because we have to have that before we can do anything. And we have to focus on ability. Not what kids can't do, but what they can do. Figured it out yet? We have to modify our curriculum. We have to modify and adapt our curriculum in order for them to be successful. It's great when we have a chance to put mentors together. My wife has a PAL program, Physical Activity Leaders, in her school. And so she goes and seeks out juniors and seniors who want to be OTs, PTs, special ed classroom teachers, and she finds time in their schedule when they can meet her at the elementary school, or they can meet her at the middle school. And they become a peer mentor. So simple. So simple. Right? She works with the school counselor just to make sure the schedules line up for some of her kids who sign up for it, and then she teaches them, and then they come to her class. Sometimes it's with a large group of kids, so there's like a mentor within the class. Quinn obviously has an aide that comes with her. She has a nurse that comes with her, and the kids in 4th and 5th grade line up to be Quinn's helper for the day. They love her. Oh my God, so much fun, right? One of the things we do with Quinn is we have, because she's not able to give a high five to kids, and it's one of the things that kids do when they leave the gym, is they give high fives on the way out. So we got her a pool noodle that just hangs forward like this, and we taped a glove onto the end. So the kids walk by and hit it. And of course, there's always the kid that would, you know, doesn't know how to regulate the high five. That's another reason why she can't give high fives, right? But she gives high fives with her pool noodle. And nobody leaves the gym until everybody high fives Quinn. And she's a powerful tool, and she's a powerful person in her school. She sets the tone. My argument is it shouldn't be in the afternoon at 2:40. It should be in the morning when kids come into the building, right? They should be giving Quinn a high five every day. But it's about that motivation. What can you do to motivate your kids? Whatever level they're at. How do we individualize? How do we differentiate? We'll learn some of those things today. How do we include? How do we identify and empower? So that kids like Quinn, or my good little girl here, Jessie, can feel as if they can control their environment, can feel as if they are truly a part of what they're supposed to be a part of in physical education, and if you will, indulge in the good faith, the good things that we do as physical educators. It feels good to exercise. It feels great to move. It feels good to do all those things. Even if we lose, it feels good, right? So indulge in that, literally indulge in that. I love that word. Works good with chocolate too. Right? We want to live, we want to laugh, we want to do all those things we want to love. We want to be physically literate. Here's a definition for you. Physical literacy. If you've never heard of this term before, go look it up. Canadian thing more than anything. But physical literacy, simple. It's the notion of having confidence in my shoes wherever I'm standing. The ability to be confident in my shoes, whether I'm on the ice, the snow, the grass, the gravel, whether I'm with my peers, without my peers. I'm confident enough to be, I'm here. To be present, to play, right? Physical literacy. We all have different levels of physical literacy. Some of us are great in the pool. Some of us are great in the weight room. Some of us are good on the baseball field, etc., or basketball, wherever. We all have this level of physical literacy, right, where we feel confident in our shoes. And we also have those areas where we're not so confident in our shoes. Right? We want to expand that for our kids. We want to help them be confident so that they can be lifelong learners, lifelong physical activity, and enjoy this beautiful state. You get an amazing state with all these seasons. Right? It kills me in New York, so many of the kids from Long Island come up to upstate and they hate the snow and the weather. And it's like, are you kidding? This is the best time of year. There's no bugs, no people. I love this, right? We have fewer people. I like to ski, but you know, cross country, you'd be out in the woods. You get out in the snow and the ice, it's gorgeous. Love it out there like that. But it's amazing how many just, you know, panic over those types of things. But it's about being lifelong physically active. And of course, the last part of it is, oh, I backed up. The last part of it has to do with, sorry. There it is, right? It's feeling young, feeling good about what we do. Embracing diversity, embracing that And down in, you know, I say down, this is funny, you know, down in the States, down in New York, cultural competencies are huge. We have to embrace the differences in our kids and look at those cultural differences as well as physical differences, social emotional differences, and embrace those, right? Not be afraid of those, right? You teach in New York City, it's all about culture. It's all about understanding culture and various cultures who come to physical education and participate. And it's fun, right? It's great. If we learn to embrace it, and we embrace it, and then obviously be a family about it, right? Be that person in your school who can help advocate for kids and do those types of things. I like to say this, be a lifesaver. And this is a quick little story. The lifesaver thing. Now, anytime I ever see a lifesaver now, I just think of this. So, little boy Austin, right? My little guy with Down syndrome. He's now about 11. He had open heart surgery a couple times. All these things, a lot of issues, a lot of medical issues. He came to our program, and it was right around Halloween, so right around this time, and it was just a type of activity we were doing, and the kids were doing some stuff, and I was not having a great day. It just wasn't a good day. I was mad at my students weren't performing well, my college students, they were missing things. It just wasn't a good day. So you could see it in my face. I wear my emotion on my sleeve pretty well. And they knew I wasn't thrilled, right? And Austin knew that I wasn't real happy. So he comes over, and he walks up to me, and he gives me this single package, this little tiny Lifesaver, right? Little cherry Lifesaver. And he just hands it to me. It's like, it's his candy. He gives it to me. And it's the sweetest thing ever. And I'll never forget that, because it was like his way of saying, hey, I'll be your Lifesaver today. And just like the kids that you have, that inspire you, that make you want to do great things and be great people, whenever, any time, it doesn't matter where I'm at, if I see a Lifesaver, I got Austin right here saying, hey, it's going to be okay. And that's a great feeling for me. I love that. I love that thing. I'll never forget that little gift that he gave me just by doing that. So I want to thank Leo for having me here today. We have a lot more to cover, a lot more to do. I've rattled on this keynote for quite a while, and I know there's lots of questions you have. So we're going to take a bit of a break. I'm available to answer questions, ask questions, and we're going to head over to Gentile Hall. How much time do they have, Leo? Because it's almost 10 right now.
Well, we need to start moseying out in the next about 5 minutes.
Well, can we have a hard start, like 10:30? Is that okay for a hard start?
And then the Gentile, sure.
All right, 10:30 at Gentile Hall, hard start. All good? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll see you over there.